I'm live, I'm live, I'm live. It is Friday morning. It is the 31st of March, last day of March 2023. I'm reading Scarlet. It's a book by Joan Grant. She was a writer of her farm memories. She lived from 1907 till 1989. She was married 4 times, I think. This is the story about Piyanah. She is Piyanah, and she was growing up with Raki, her cousin. They are in the American, in the West, somewhere in the West, but thousands of years ago. And their mission in life is to become joint chiefs of a new tribe. Now we are now by the 29th reading, I think. Piyanah and Raki have done the ordeals. They've been to the meeting of the 30 tribes, and they have gathered the people who want to be with them, men and women. I think they have 30 women, 30 men, and they have others in their tribes, but you have to listen to the previous chapters to know. They're now on their way, and they have to cross the Bitter Mountains. This is part 2 of the Bitter Mountains. We baked bread in the ashes, and each had a piece to eat before the light was strong enough to move on. Until about noon, it was a slow, steady climb over loose shale. The wind came in gusts, sometimes so strong that we had to cling together to stop being driven down the perilous slopes. The women were uncomplaining as the men, though I saw that Rakina's and Cheka's fingers were bleeding, where the cold had cracked them open. All of us were scoured by the lash of the wind. Often the clouds lifted and we could see the twin peaks against the hostile sky. Then the clouds came down again and we could only plod on in the direction the brief glimpse had given us. We only knew we had reached the top of the pass by the sudden increase in the fury of the wind, which roared between the caged crags as though enraged that anything dared to give it a challenge. Hajan had been anxious for Raki and me to take the lead, but now he strode forward. I paused to let him go ahead. He deserved this triumph, even though the going had been far more difficult than he had led us to expect. The snow-laden wind twirled around him like smoke. I suppose I should have been able to share this sense of triumph, but I was too tired and too cold. Suddenly he stopped. I saw him shake his fist at the sky. As I came up behind him, I heard him laughing. Hajan, the Scarlet, the imperturbable, laughing, as though laughter could break out from the cage of his ribs. Then I saw his face. It was the face of a man driven mad by his own betrayal, but he could still recognize me. I never came to the head of the pass. I lied when I told you that the southern slopes were easy. Look, Piyanah, you can see the land of your future, but to reach it, you must borrow wings from your totem. He stood on the edge of a precipice. Far below, I could see the forest where we had thought to walk in peace. I promise to lead you south. I will keep my promise. With a terrible cry, he ran forward and leapt. I saw his body falling, his arms beating the air as though he were trying to fly. Raki had stayed to see that everyone reached the summit in safety. I was the only one who had seen Hajan go to his death because he thought he had betrayed us. If the women knew what had happened, they might panic, and to make our way down the cliff, all of us would need everything we had of courage and endurance. I must lie even to Raki and say that Hajan had gone ahead. It will be true, even if Raki does not understand my truth. I must tell him that I'm going ahead with Hajan, and that he must somehow find shelter to light a fire. Even if he uses all our arrows, they must have the comfort of a little warmth. Raki, when I had spoken to him, was confident that our worst perils were over. Otherwise, he would never have let me go on without even a thought. He thought Hajan went with me. Hidden by a jutting rock, I prayed as I had never prayed before to the great hunters, to Norok, to Nakachik, to the Lord of the Herons. Please help me find a way down. Please help me to help them. for they have been so brave and have come so far. I shall never be sure whether it was the wind blowing through a cleft or whether I heard Narok's drumming with my living ears. The sound led me towards the face of the western pinnacle, and I saw it would not be difficult to climb. I did not question why I should climb higher in an attempt to go down, but I found myself scrambling from ledge to ledge, on which, compared to the way we had come, was almost a series of natural steps. I reached a long horizontal crack, running east and protected from the worst of the gale. Even above the battery of the wind, the drumming was steady, the rhythm Narok called New Horizons, and which I had so often heard come to life under his fingers. The crack ended in a ridge, curving down like a rib from a backbone. It was steep and snow-covered, but not impossible. From it, I could see the precipice over which Hajan had plunged, falling sheer as water to the forest, which he could have reached in safety. The relief was more life-giving than a bowl of deer stew. The journey back to Raki seemed easy. 3 of the women were huddled together under the blankets in the shelter of an overhanging rock. They refused to get up when Raki gave the signal, and would not move even when their husbands ordered them. One of them slapped his woman across the face, and suddenly she became the obedient, unquestioning squaw, who even a day earlier she would have despised. She scrambled to her feet and followed him docilely. The other women did the same. How soon Raki noticed that there was only one set of footprints ahead of us, I'm not sure. He did not mention it, but I think he found it difficult to forgive me for having lied to him about Hajan. Soon we were on the lower slopes, and I was happy, because I thought the ordeal was almost over and that Raki would soon be proud of me instead of angry. We had seen 2 avalanches earlier in the day, but they had been far too far to concern us. Suddenly there was a crack, loud as the whip of great hunters if they had been gathering all the herds of earth. A great stretch of snow, marred only by the file of our prints, began to slide faster and faster as the avalanche gathered speed. "Run!" shouted Raki. "Cover your heads with blankets as it reaches you." Like bison in stampede, the avalanche thundered down. Clinging to Raki's arm, I was deafened by the noise. It swept past us to crash amongst the trees below. As the air cleared, I saw women and men stagger to their feet. Swiftly, I counted them. Raki and I, and 73. No, 2, for Hajan was dead. I counted them again. There were only 71. Raki, someone is missing. Then I realized who it was. Dorok. The avalanche caught Dorok. We were all digging with our hands, throwing aside stones and lumps of frozen snow, rolling away boulders in desperate effort to reach Dorok before he smothered. I tried to reassure myself. People have lived for half a day under the snow. Don't die, Dorok. We'll get you out very soon. It was Gorky who found him. He was still breathing, but his life was running out like water from a broken jar. The pass I'm crossing is very easy, my Piyanah. I never knew until now that it is so much easier to die than to live. I thought that was the last time I should hear his voice, but he spoke again, smiling. It is warmer even than the south on the other side of the water. So this is the end of the Black Mountains, which they have just managed to, how would you say, managed to beat. The next chapter is a Black Spider. There's a couple more chapters. Blue Smokes. Anyway, look forward to this. Have a lovely Friday.